what would you say? Not so much the most enjoyable, but what would be the most standout in terms of the process for you, where you were like, that was particularly rewarding or particularly notable in hindsight?
Some of the very early recordings I have with Chris and with Dean, so with Video Guy Dean, because he was on all those calls as well, because at the time it was literally just Chris and Dean. Hearing those two argue amongst themselves and debate amongst themselves, while I've thrown the stake in the ring, and now we have two lions trying to fight over who gets the biggest piece. Yeah, you've got Chris, the guy who started the show, and you have Dean, who is the only other person who's worked on it up to this point. Watching those moments unfold and then seeing how things have developed is I'm very grateful that I was part of those moments, even if I was just the facilitator, just to sit back and be like, right, well, see where this goes. That's one of those particular moments. And then seeing from that work to now Chris going out and doing live speaking tours with sold out venues and graphics based on the system that I designed all those years ago is very rewarding. And I think generally I find these moments of discussion and debate and at times literally arguing over color palettes and why this particular color actually reflects the voice we're going for rather than just your favorite color. And little nuances like that. When you actually see them play out in the world, that's when it becomes most exciting and real. Yeah, because brand is something that takes so long to build that it's not a case of running some ads on Facebook and being like, well, what gives me the best click-through rate? What gives me the best return? It's you have to set it and use it and just forget about it in many ways. You have to be like, right, these are the limitations. These are blinders. We trust that Connor has built a system that is reflective of myself, my content, the audience we're trying to capture, and generally the vision that we have for the brand or the company. And we have to run it. There's no other way to get around it. You can't skip any of those steps. You have to put in the hard work. So it's something that I love doing in the moment, but I also love waking up 3, 4, 5 years later and getting an email from that person just because I'm on their newsletter and being like, I can't believe that. Are they really doing that? Like, we were on Zoom calls. Like with Chris, for example, he was on crutches during our first ever meeting after he'd torn his ACL or something like that, his Achilles, hopping around his kitchen while I'm presenting an audit for his current brand and being like, this is how we need to fix this. So it's been a long time, and the fruit of that work doesn't show immediately. And that's something that anyone who is listening to this, if you are building one of these types of platforms or brands or YouTube channels or podcasts, you have to remember that. Yeah, I'm someone where my entire job is setting up systems that should last, hopefully, for as long as that person exists out in the world. That's the goal. If it lasts for 10 years, amazing. If it lasts for 20 or 30, even better. And that's the horizons you have to use when thinking about the video that you put up every day. It's not the video, it's the vision overall. Yeah, it's the entire arc, because you can't spend so much time in the minutia of, well, this week I'm going to try this font, and then next week I'm going to try that font, and my logo's not quite right, and I'm going to hire another guy on Fiverr. Just pick it. Just, if you don't have the budget to hire someone to help you, just pick a thing and do it and just run it. Yeah. And eventually you can hire me. Easy peasy.
Hey, can you send the invoice right now potentially to me? just via email.
Wise payment link incoming. Yeah.
Legit, man. No, hey, that is fascinating though, because they're you're thinking of that in just such a broad time horizon where it's sort of, you want this to last forever because it's actually kind of capturing the essence and the unchanging elements of a person. It's like capturing their core nature or their 7-year-old self?
Yeah.
Do you know,
The
in a sense?
the
What
core
was that?
message, the core voice. If you can summarize a person's voice in like 5 keywords, like how they sound to other people, and why other people like them, you go a significant amount of the way to building that system, because then you build a lens to see everything through and a filter to see everything through. And this is what I ended up when I was working with Jordan and his team when he was unwell, was being his brand manager. So being the final filter, being that point where you have to understand the person you are representing so well, nothing gets through the barrier that shouldn't. And it sounds really tough, and you see your face, but it's when you understand. Obviously, Jordan's had hundreds of hours worth of content at that point, so it wasn't too hard to figure that out with or without him. But when you're doing this for the first time, that's the reason I have the horizons that I do, and the long term vision for the people I work with, and setting it in stone correctly now, is because you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. There are many people throughout history who, at this point, the people who are represented